Let me tell you something about being around people and how it affects your success. In the Bible, when Jesus wanted to raise the little girl from the dead, what did he do? He selected only a few of his disciples, Peter, James, and John, and brought the girl's parents with him into the room because the people around him did not believe. They even laughed at him when he said the girl was sleeping. Now there is this great secret that rich people, or let's call them inspirational speakers, usually say. Do not stay in the midst of people who do not have the same mindset as you. Let me tell you how this impacts your life in different ways. For many years I have heard these words. Find the right circle. During the time I was living with my family after resigning from my job, I was facing a very difficult season, and my family did not make it easy for me. They were the kind of family that only valued you when you had money, and would constantly speak negative words that made you feel like a failure. They obviously did not believe in me. I was doing music back then. I suddenly had the grace to write Afrobeat songs, but somehow my family almost destroyed that gift in me. They criticized me more than they appreciated me. It was as though they only paid attention to me when they wanted to point out something wrong. I was also writing, but struggling to even conclude on any books. I had started writing several books, both fiction and non-fiction. Now I know people will say, you are supposed to focus on one thing. Well, I wish life had only been difficult for me on one side. It wasn't. I wrote fiction because it was the only way I could imagine a life outside the dark room my aunt had asked me to stay in. I remember a day when they were watching a movie. They kept sending me on errands until the movie was over. I felt such treatment so heavily, so I decided to create my own stories. Looking back now, I think that may be one of the reasons I became talkative. The people around me did not want to have healthy conversations with me. Every time they saw me, bad words found its way out of them mouth towards me. So whenever I was outside the house, I tried my best to be friendly, because going back to my aunt's house felt like returning to hell. The reason I wrote nonfiction was not because of the pain itself, but because of the mistakes I made because of that pain and the experiences I went through. I had gained so much knowledge, but being young made me take very bad decisions because I was constantly searching for love in any form I could find it. It was not until I became an adult that I realized I had to love myself first, before I could break out of the cycle of choosing the wrong friends and the wrong partners. I looked at my family and began to understand where many of the flaws started. I looked at the friends who eventually hurt me and realized they had always been that way. The problem was that I thought everybody was like me. I remember being close to a man whom I thought was bringing me hope, but it turned out his wife-to-be saw me differently. She assumed I was loose when, in reality, I was only running to them because I did not want to be stuck with my not-yet-baby daddy. We were dating at time, but I saw he had refused to work on himself, but I was already in love and was trying to forget him. That day she told me that I was loose, and that the fact that my parents were poor did not give me an excuse to roam around. She was not advising me. She was confronting me. I cried and stopped going to their house. That was when I decided to cling completely to my not-yet-baby's father, even though that relationship almost ruined my life. Meanwhile, while I was with them, the man and the people around him usually prayed to God. Even though my father was a pastor, I was very angry at both him and my mother for allowing the world to destroy my self-esteem. What hurt me even more was that they often listened to outsiders over me. But while I was with these people, I was beginning to get closer to God. I started feeling a strong push from the Holy Spirit to preach inside buses. The urge was so heavy on me. But after that conversation with his soon-to-be wife, I completely put my desire to genuinely grow closer to God on hold. Even though I was living with my father and singing in church, something had changed inside me. I went on to do things with the man I was dating at the time that I knew were wrong. I mean fornication. Every time I did it, I hated it. Not only because I had been sexually molested in the past, but because deep inside, I knew it was wrong. I believe that marriage is where I would have felt differently about intimacy. After some years, I went back to the man whom I had adopted in my mind as a father figure. But whenever I wanted to help them cook, the first thing his wife would say was, "Nah, that food will not be sweet." She would say it with so much certainty that I would eventually become nervous and end up cooking rubbish. That was when I started understanding why she behaved the way she did around me. Then I remembered a time when I had helped her interpret a dream. The interpretation suggested there was a threat to her relationship. She looked at me and said not to worry because she already knew who the threat was. That memory made me sad. All I had ever been searching for was a place where I could truly say, "These are my people." It was after that dream interpretation that she came to me and said all those hurtful things. I did not even have enough confidence in myself to carry myself properly. Why would she think I wanted to take her husband? That experience pushed me into a real depression. Several years later, I went back there again. At that point, I was once more trying to escape the negativity I was facing from my family. They constantly made me feel bad about not having money. I went to those people because I thought they would understand me. I helped around the house. I cleaned. I cooked. I assisted wherever I could. And there were other young people around my age in that house who helped as well. But what I observed this time was even worse. She wanted to find a husband for me. The man she suggested already had 5 grown sons. Honestly, I had enough love in my heart that I could have given to those children. But when I realized that she was recommending him because she felt I had little value as a single mother, and therefore should not be selective, I immediately understood something. People like her could never connect me to my miracle. And even if they did, they would eventually destroy it themselves. So I declined. All of this was happening at the same time. Some of my friends were accusing me of trying to take another friend's husband, a man I had never even met. Another woman treated me as though I wanted her husband too, despite the fact that she was the one who invited me into her home, and knew very well that I never came around when her husband was present. But that is a story for another day. So I went on my knees and cried to God. I told him that I needed a place where I could flourish, a place where I could have peace of mind. God has always answered me whenever I pray from a truly broken heart. He really does send comforters. That was how my now husband sent me a message. He had been in my inbox for years. I never imagined him as a boyfriend, let alone a husband. But that man became exactly what I wanted in life. He may not have so much money, but I do not lack peace. And I do not lack love. I started focusing more on what I love to do, which is creating content and writing. My husband suggested that we put music on hold until we had enough money to buy good equipment and properly promote the songs because, according to him, they were really good. He bought me a table and even made sure there was light always and data. He paid for my fashion training, and now things are beginning to fall into place. I have written books, and many things are already looking promising. I would never have achieved this in an environment where people did not believe in me. My aunt constantly called me a failure. She said I would amount to nothing. At first, I ignored those words. But eventually, they started affecting me. The funny thing is that I used to be the child my school relied on. For dancing, for singing, for writing, even for drawing. During one of our inter-house sports competitions, I dressed and walked as a robot during the matching for our inter-house sport, and it helped our team win. I flourished in school because they believed in me. But slowly, my aunt's words started gaining a hold over my mind. When I was dating my baby's father, he told me that no man would ever want me because I now had a child. I rejected those words immediately. I refused to accept them. In fact, one of the reasons I left him was because I knew I could not spend my life with someone who saw me that way. Later, while I was living with my family, my younger brother insulted me after I warned him not to hit his girlfriend again. He called me a waste. He said my certificate was useless. And I quote, "You are the most useless graduate in the whole world." Now, it was not just the words these people said that affected me. It was the fact that they believed those things in their hearts. And if enough people around you believe negative things about you, then whenever you try to do something in their presence, you may find it difficult to perform at your best. That was when those popular sayings from rich and successful people started making more sense to me. Find your own family. Find your own circle. Find people who believe in you. I began to understand that those statements carried a much deeper meaning than I had previously realized. Then it hit me. The impact was not only physical, it was also spiritual. Because whether people agree with it or not, the spiritual influences the physical. That was when I remembered the story of Jesus raising the little girl from the dead. Jesus selected only a few of his disciples, Peter, James, and John, and brought the girl's parents into the room because the people around him did not believe. They even laughed at him when he said the girl was sleeping. Look, let me give you this secret for free. The reason successful people tell us to leave environments where people do not believe in us, and to surround ourselves with people who share our vision, is not only because of the physical benefits. There are spiritual benefits as well. Now let me explain what I mean. A man is a spirit, has a soul, and lives in a body. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And in the spiritual side of life, many things change before they eventually become visible in the physical. So when you surround yourself with people who do not believe in you, there are physical consequences. It affects your mental health. It reduces your creativity. It weakens your confidence. And it makes it difficult for you to recognize opportunities or make the most of them, because your energy is constantly being drained. Depression pushes a person into a very low state emotionally and mentally. When you remain in that state for too long, your mind stops building and starts destroying. Your thoughts become negative. Your words become negative. Your actions become self-destructive. Some people turn to masturbation. Some become gluttonous. Some begin to self-harm. And some even begin to think about suicide. Now, there are different forms of suicide. There is career suicide. There is relationship suicide. This is when people who have been hurt repeatedly decide that they will never trust or love again. And then there is physical suicide. Many things can happen when a person remains trapped in a destructive environment for too long. Many things can happen when a person remains trapped in a destructive environment for too long. You can even abandon something that was meant to make you a better person simply because of the people surrounding you. Another physical effect is this. The people who do not believe in you are rarely connected to the opportunities that can help you. Not because those opportunities do not exist, and not because they never come across them, but because they have already decided who you are. They have already decided that you will fail. So even when they come across something that could help you, they are unlikely to think of you. And if they do help you, many factors are usually involved. Maybe they still have a little belief in you. Maybe someone close to them believes in you. Or maybe God touched their heart and pushed them to act. But generally speaking, your chances of thriving in that kind of environment are very low. So move away from it. Even if those people have the tools, knowledge, or connections that could help you, they often will not use them for your benefit. Imagine having a dream to build a company that could help solve a global food problem. Now imagine being surrounded by 5 people who already see you as a failure. People whose mindset is too small to understand the vision you carry. It would be extremely difficult to flourish in that environment. Now that we have talked about the physical side of it, let us move on to the spiritual side. The spiritual effect. Many people ask questions like, why can't God just help us? Why did God allow this to happen? Why did He allow that to happen? What many people do not realize is that God has already put many things in place for us and given us the freedom to choose what we do with them. Human beings have played a major role in making the world what it is today. At this point, we survive largely through God's grace and mercy. Everything else requires our participation. Let me ask you a question. Why is it that some of the very people society once wrote off are now making the most money on social media? Many people will say it is because they were consistent. I agree that consistency matters, but I believe there is more to it. I believe they were surrounded by people who encouraged them, even if it was only a few people. And when they came online, they focused on those who believed in them rather than those who doubted them. Let me explain. Many of the people who are thriving today might never have become successful if social media did not exist. Their families may have given up on them. They may have had very few friends. They may have been misunderstood by the people closest to them. But because they were different, They were forced to build something unique about themselves. The same thing happens to gifted people. Many gifted people are overlooked by the world. Many are disregarded. But what saves some of them is that they stop chasing fake friendships and begin protecting their minds from constant negativity. That is where I believe the spiritual effect comes in. You see, people's hearts and minds are connected to either good or evil. And whether we like it or not, both have influence. Think about animals for a moment. Have you ever seen a dog react aggressively to one person while immediately warming up to another? Or seen animals become naturally drawn to certain people? Many believe animals can sense things that human beings often ignore. They respond to what they feel. In the same way, I believe human beings carry a spiritual presence, what some people call an aura. And being around people who constantly carry negativity, bitterness, envy, hatred, or disbelief can have an effect on your own mindset and confidence. It can suppress your ability to see yourself clearly. It can make you question your purpose. It can make you doubt your gifts. I believe there are spiritual realities that we do not fully understand. There are moments when opportunities are near, breakthroughs are near, and answers are near. Now imagine being surrounded by people who constantly speak against you, think against you, and expect your failure. Imagine a rabbit surrounded by lions. The rabbit is not being eaten, but it is never comfortable. Every movement creates fear. Every attempt to move forward creates panic. Every effort to escape is met with resistance. That is how some people feel when they remain surrounded by negativity. They are alive, but they are never free. They are moving, but they are never flourishing. You may say, those people cannot kill your dreams simply because they do not believe in you. But I would disagree. Not directly. Yet over time, they can contribute to the destruction of hope. A person who constantly feels unsupported, rejected, and pressured by life can eventually lose the strength to keep fighting. When the people who should encourage you become the very people discouraging you, the burden becomes even heavier. This is why environment matters. This is why community matters. This is why the people around you matter. Now let me say something that many people may disagree with. The minds of people who do not believe in you are not merely filled with doubt. Those doubts also become expectations. And expectations have power. That is why I am careful about who I share my dreams with. Many times, people have already decided what they think you can or cannot become. They have already created a version of you in their minds. And they secretly hope that version is correct. Not because they necessarily hate you, but because people like being proven right. That is why some dreams die the moment they are shared with the wrong people. Not because the dream was impossible, but because the dream was exposed to minds that had already rejected it. That is one reason I believe we should protect our plans until the right time. Sometimes it is better to work quietly. Sometimes it is better to build privately. Sometimes it is better to let the results speak for themselves. Have you ever worried about something and then simply thought in your heart, God, please let this work out? You did not kneel down. You did not pray formally. You simply desired it deeply. And somehow things worked out. Maybe you were late for work. Maybe you thought, God, please do not let me lose my job today. Then you arrived and discovered that the person who would normally have confronted you had stepped out. Moments like that remind us that there is more to life than what we can physically see. And if our own thoughts can influence how we move through life, then we should not be surprised that the atmosphere around us also matters. That is why I believe we should pray. That is why I believe we should guard our minds. And that is why I believe we should choose our environments carefully. Be around people who are happy to see you. Be around people who celebrate your progress. Be around people who challenge you to become better. Be around people whose eyes light up when you walk into the room. This chapter is a broad one, and there is still much more I could say. But I will stop here for now. If you would like to hear more from me, you can check out my books on Amazon under my author name, Didi Sam. You can also check the description for links to my non-fiction books. Thank you for stopping by. And please do not forget to subscribe.